Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Northern Heresy's podcast. And I am joined by my lovely host, Mr. Kyle. And we're going to be talking about Space Wolves today, which will get him very excited, being the wolf that he is.
Yes,
Sorry, I'm just drinking a brew.
it's a lovely day here in sunny Northern Ireland for some reason,
It is.
and
There is no
yeah,
thunderstorms.
it's a happy day because I'm just back from my second weekend campaign for Heresy, and yeah, everything's been great, and it's a good weekend.
Yes, I was enjoying the photos while sitting in work, cooking like a ham roast and building tanks. Oh, by the way, make sure you have instructions when you build a Spartan. They're like big 3D jigsaw puzzles without them. Right, so Spacey Wolves, Kyle.
Yes.
You're Legion of Choice.
It really, really is, and it's such a difficult thing because there's so many times that I've wanted to try and do another Legion, but each and every time, and it happens without fail, is that I'll think up a new list. I'll grab my book. I'll start writing down things, and it's like these mad ideas come into my brain, and then as I write it all down, I keep on thinking, let's Spaceballs do this. And they kind of do it better, and they fit my play style. I'm confused by bolters a fair amount of the time. It's a weird place to be, but I think that's just the sort of it's a weird mindset for the play style, I think.
So you basically your inner furry wins.
I mean, I do not like that word, but yes, yeah. My the the Legion and the lore and the fluff, even from 40K is where I started with Space Wolves and have played them for a many number of years.
So when
Uh,
when when did you get into Space Wolves or Heresy? Because you weren't playing them when I was running them in first edition before book 7, or
so,
were you running them in first edition?
so it's really it's an interesting backstory. So I started collecting Horus Heresy whenever the Betrayal of Calthbach came out.
Like many of us.
Like many of us, because for any keen-eyed person that's wanting to start up Heresy, plastic the large plastic kits are a perfect starting point for every single Legion player.
They really are.
Um,
But here's a,
and that
here's a question that has nothing to do with your Legion, right?
Sure, sure.
And anyone who's listening, please drop a comment if you can answer this. Did you ever play Betrayal of Calth or Burning of Prospero, the board game?
No, it's still in its film wrap in the bottom of a box.
Yeah, I don't think I ever seen anybody at the club play it. And I bought 4 boxes.
Yeah, it's a novel idea, but I think they were kidding themselves whenever they were trying to introduce us like a mini game for it. And
Yeah,
it's a cool idea as if you want just that as a self-contained thing and you just want to build it and paint it and don't add anything extra and use it as a board game. Sure, you can do that.
yeah.
It's just like Space Hulk miniatures. It's just like how Games Workshop have gone from the very beginning, even with like the Space Crusade box.
Yeah.
It's been a spattering of miniatures, and you do with it what you want, right? It either stays itself or it becomes a larger force.
So you got the Betrayal of Calth,
So
which is way before book 7.
yes, so this is obviously I was invested from the very get go with Heresy. I had bought my red books. I loved. I mean, I have first edition red books
I still
before
have
they
mine too.
Yeah, so before they made a whole load of changes and all the rest of it, I made those. And obviously, as the Black Books came out, more legions were introduced because, unlike Heresy 2, of course, some of us had to wait a long time for our legion.
Yeah, yeah,
And
we did.
I was in it for the long haul, and I made a constant effort to just absorb the rules and see other people playing the game, watch bat reps, and I was absorbed in so much of that sort of kept me going and kept my interest there until Space was finally released.
Mm.
With the burning of Prospero box, obviously that reinforced me, and considering, I mean, to make a sizable force to begin with, having two of those large boxes is a fairly substantial number. So having one from each I was in a happy place because I had all different sorts of marks of armor to work with,
Mm.
and I had a starting mixture of Mark IV and Mark IIIs. That has obviously progressed now into Mark VIs from the inclusion of the Age of Darkness box.
Yeah.
And I've over the years added to that with like Forge World Mark V. A lot of Forge World parts have been bought throughout this entire force.
You don't have a hobby Instagram page, do you?
No, no, I don't.
You'll have to send me because so for all the listeners, like I have seen the bulk of Kyle's collection, um, and it is huge. Like how many points would you say of Space Wolves you've got now?
I I don't have an exact number, but I
But
but I think with all of the conversions and with all of the force that I have, I reckon I have close to 1,500 or 15,000 points
shit,
of um,
that's a
of,
lot.
of purely Space Wolf.
That's a lot. What for all the listeners, I'll get Kyle to send me some pictures, and I'll post them up on my Instagram. And there's a link in the description below the podcast and in the videos to my Instagram page, and there'll be we'll get some pictures up there of
I
Kyle's armor.
would like to add, Rick, that number is also still increasing.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
I know, I know. You're a man on a mission.
I mean, the latest thing in the building block for me is a nice big unit of inducti.
Ooh, it's a spicy subject that we'll have to dedicate an entire episode to. They are
I
very interesting, very very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Some good, some bad, but I think they could be really fun.
Hmm.
And for how cheap they are, they're really good.
I think the Cothonia campaign book itself is definitely something that we should definitely deep dive into at some stage in the future.
Oh, for sure. But as part of because obviously we're talking about Space Wolves today.
Yes,
I think it would only be right to talk about the inducti later on
yeah,
in the troop section.
we will do. So, book 7. What did you think of it?
Whenever it came out, I obviously I got it. I got my rules. I loved them. I absolutely loved them. I thought that they were great. The fact that they because for every Space Wolf player out there, veteran Space Wolf players out there, there used to always be a thing that Space Wolves had to take extra HQ choices.
We did.
So the way that worked is that for every 1,000 points, I think it was, or every 999 points that you spent, you had to take an HQ.
Yeah, there was a
And that,
really, it was really weirdly worded. I remember there was a lot of argument online about how it was
yeah, but
worded, and if certain characters like Gregor Fellhanded fit into it, because it didn't actually list if he was
yeah.
a
So,
consul or a praetor.
so,
It was weird.
so it's an interesting thought. So from getting the rules and obviously having played, so building and playing the Space Wolves as I envisioned them from the very get go, because I had a number of resources and a number of kits that I could convert and turn into pretty much everything that I ever could possibly want. So I mean, I absolutely adored Deathsworn in
Hmm.
in first edition, and I think fairly so. I think that the Space Wolves on the whole, much like an awful lot of the other legions, suffered from weird rule wording issues. Some things just didn't gel. Some things just didn't work at all.
Yeah, but
Um,
I think that was a book 7 problem, because there was a lot of, even the Thousand Sons had a
yeah,
lot of real ambiguity to their rules.
there was a lot of ambiguity through the rule set, but persevering through first edition, I was never put off by them. I always had a good time playing them.
Yeah,
I've only, other than whenever you collected them, Rick, I have been the only Space Wolf player
you're right. I think
in the north.
we
I,
were
I
we
am.
were the only two. I think at my peak I had about just short of 5,000 points.
And it's an interesting thing because as we talk about it, obviously those who enjoy rules, obviously, I'm surprised that more people don't play Space Wolves,
Yeah.
considering how powerful their rules are, in my opinion. Um,
From what I've seen of them in second edition, I would definitely say they're definitely in the top quarter of legions in regards to power, compared
Agree.
to others. Yeah.
Yeah, but as for the hobby, I mean the Space Wolves called to me. I answered. I've always enjoyed their fluff. Grew up reading the Ragnar Blackmane novels, and then Aaron Dembski Bowden brought out the Ragnar Blackmane book to continue that sort of storytelling saga,
Hmm.
and I absolutely loved it. I ate it all up.
Just a shame that Dan Abner, and I know what I'm about to say will probably get the lynch mob to come and pitchforks to come and burn me down, but Dan Abnett really screwed up with Burning a Prospero. That book was shit. It really was. Russ doesn't turn up until page 415 of a book that's essentially about him and his legion burning Prospero. In fact, Prospero doesn't even get burnt in the book. It's a
Now,
terrible, terrible book.
you'll
Terrible.
need to remind me because I'm not as initiated as yourself.
Essentially,
Wasn't there two books
yes, yes,
around Burning of Prospero,
yes. There
and
was the
one was
Thousand
on the
Sons.
side of the Sons,
The
and the
Thousand
other was from the
Sons
Wolf.
book was very good. It gave you a very good insight into the Thousand Sons and their fall from grace and ultimately their demise on Prospero. And the Thousand Sons book came out first, and then the Burning of Prospero come out. And you automatically assumed that you were going to get a book from the war from Lehman Russ's point of view and the Space Wolves. And that's not what we got. We ended up
Was
getting some weird character who was kind of like an agent of some kind. Um, that like basically on the large scope of the actual book itself, if you'd have taken the Space Wolves out of it and put in any other legion, it wouldn't have really changed the story. Now
wow.
there were good parts in it where it showed you like so the Council of Nicaea and the whole librarian thing was really interesting. But then it had this weird subplot of the Space Wolves being ready to attack and like trying to stop some weird assassination type attempt and thing with this agent, and it was just yeah, it just wasn't good. Now I believe that Dan Abnett was having health issues at the time, and I think had rewritten it a few times, but it's not the strongest. Like now, when you got book 7 from the Black Book series that Forge World were doing, that's when you got a proper lore perspective for Prospero and the build up and the aftermath of the conflict, rather
Yeah.
than the actual Black Library novels. Because I think they really missed the ball with with Burning with Prospero. And I know the Dan Abnett fans are going to hate me for saying that, but like he is good at writing about guardsmen, just not about Space Marines. He kind of
I
sucks at that.
have I have always heard that the Thousand Sons book has always been the better one.
It is. The Space Wolves are in it, and you do think they're dicks in it.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think that that's a negative thing. I mean, you should see the negative side to them. This is like what they look like to their enemy.
Yeah,
It's
there's
like
a very much a you can't use psychic powers because it's sorcery and it's bad, and here's my shaman who uses earth magic, but that's good. It's like, wow, that's very hypocritical of you. But she's perfect for the Space Wolves, to be fair.
yeah, it is. And if you can't appreciate that hypocrisy, then I think some of the nuance to like their
Yeah.
background and stuff is lost. But that's more like lower perspective
Oh,
stuff. And
I love my
some
law.
some people just go in for aesthetics,
Oh,
and
yes.
some people I do get is like they don't like the idea of like space Vikings and just like it's such a basic theme, but it's been a theme since Rogue Trader.
I think the more 30k aesthetic of the Space Wolves now um, originated from Chris Wright's novel,
Right, okay.
where the Thousand Sons attack Fenris, and you have, and I can't remember the specific date, but it's quite early in the Imperium's history after the Heresy, and
Sure.
Magnus takes revenge on on the Space Wolves and attacks Fenris. It is
Yes,
a
yes.
really good
It
book,
is a
but
really, really good book.
that sort of savage ferocity and the sort of new name that the Space Wolves get with and the imagery of them wearing the leather hoods and things that kind of come out of that novel, and it kind of then bled into 30k, and it's really it's kind of really cool, that part.
I dig it.
It's really cool.
Now I do think, and I have done this throughout my entire army collection, is that I personally don't think that they should be like 40k Space Wolves where they're all bedecked with like trinkets and things, and it's like the majority will wear their helmets because it's the heresy, it's the Great Crusade. So yes, they're
Mm,
putting their helmets on because it's terrible warfare.
yeah.
And but for those who do have bare heads, it's like you try to make them unique, try to make them look like Vikings more than like wolf people.
Yeah,
Um,
they're definitely
and
a modeler's dream
I have
for an
loved
army.
building.
Yeah.
I have always loved building, and I do put probably too much effort into making
It's not
each
necessarily a
one
bad
of
thing.
them unique.
It's not a
No, not
bad thing.
necessarily,
No.
but you anybody who does put a lot of passion into their hobby will understand that sometimes only you will ever notice these things.
Yes. Yes. So you've collected them for a while. So what is your view of them on second edition? Like, how do you think they've transitioned into the new 7.5
Honestly,
edition?
I think it has been the most comfortable rule shift I have ever experienced in any rule game, in any board game.
Hmm, interesting.
Um, that's my honest opinion. Certainly, the way that the new rules, while there are some questionable decisions from the rules,
Okay.
and things do need FAQ'd, and there are problems with it. I think the core mechanics of the game are sound.
Okay.
Um, I think that reactions are an amazing addition to the mechanics of the game.
100% agree. I love reactions.
Getting rid of the psychic phase and just turning it into you do the power whenever it tells you you can do the power. I think that's great. The way that Perils of the Warp is really quite bad, but it's also reasonable to use it.
Yeah.
It's not just it's got a potential of outright killing the person who tries to do the power, but
Hmm.
at the same time they could survive, and it's that risk that you run whenever you perils, right? But the way that the legions are, and the way that they all play so differently because of their legion traits, or
Hmm.
their is such a good way to play 30k.
Hmm.
Um, it encouraged. I've seen so many Imperial Fist players, and I understand why people go Imperial Fists. Some people do like them. Some people love their rules.
I like the +1 on shooting boulders.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
but
lie,
Imperial Fist.
that's really strong.
So I'm using Imperial Fist as sort of like an example here. It's like Imperial Fists get a lot.
It's a bad example when they're now the new poster boys, along with the Thousand Suns, which is which
Yeah,
is which is
but
nice because, like, I think I always find that the Imperial Fists in 40k are massively overshadowed by the Ultramarines. Um,
but so my argument would be is okay. So you're showing some love to the Imperial Fist and the Sons of Horus. Completely get that.
yeah,
But there are some legions which have nothing.
I feel you, brother. I feel you as a Salamander player.
I mean, Raven Guard deserve
Oh,
more.
they do, but
Salamander.
I think the certain legions will get their
They're,
time to shine when the campaign book come out.
yeah, and I think that I mean my hope is that the way that they're they're following this sort of pattern with like the release of the books. So it was around this time last year that second edition actually dropped.
It was actually a year today because I looked at my Facebook memories and I have a photograph of me with my box and my loyalist book a year
Oh
today.
wow!
So
Well,
yeah,
happy first
yeah,
anniversary, the second
yeah,
edition. Then.
yeah. And I'm only just getting back into Horus Heresy.
So yeah, much like every game, it's gonna have problems and it's gonna have those issues. But as long as they keep on doing this pattern, and I know that not a lot of people weren't happy with the Siege of Cathonia book.
I don't know.
Um,
I've not seen it. Um,
I like it, but I like it because it has Zone Mortalis rules in it. That's the only reason that I got it.
no, well, that's
Mo-
that's yeah,
that is for me. That's why I have that book, because I love Zone Mortalis in comparison to it's such a different game to Standard Age of Darkness.
yeah. I would like to get it because I'm a bit of a collector, and it would
Yeah,
look good on my shelf.
but
But there's
so
the Zone Mortalis rules are perfect. I think an opening campaign book, Siege of
yeah,
Cathonia
I
is
think
a very good way of doing it.
It's a good way. I mean, they have a bunch of different core missions in there, but the idea that they're concentrating on the two main legions that were involved in this conflict, and it gives in the book it gives you a timeline through the Horus Heresy, and it gives you a few key moments. And obviously, Siege of Chthoniya is rather close to whenever the Siege of Terra happened.
Yeah, but I think a lot of
It's
people.
right at the end.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean that they can't. I mean, they're telling stories from the Horus Heresy. That doesn't mean
yeah.
they need to keep them in chronological order.
That
So
would be
doing that
true.
and representing the Imperial Fists and the Sons of Horus. So now that they're done, the best idea would be that the next campaign book that they do is that they do another two legions, one from each side.
Well, that's probably how it's going to happen. But I imagine that if they'd have started from the beginning and done a campaign book on Prospero, then people, especially for a lot of players who've come from first edition into second edition, would have then been annoyed that we've essentially gone back almost
Well, I mean,
10 years.
we
Um,
we started at Betrayal at Calth, then went back to Burning of Prospero.
well, Calth and Prospero are happening around about the same time at the
Then we
timeline, sort
then
of.
we've gone forward to Siege of Chthoniya, which is
Yeah,
just prior to the Siege of Terra,
yeah.
or just during. I'm not too sure.
I
It's
think
it's a
it's,
weird thing. It's before, but it's not far away.
yeah.
But the fact that you know you can do different places. I mean, I would love a Space Wolves and Alpha Legion matchup for a campaign book. The Alexis Nebula, was it?
Yeah, I think for me, for the top of my list for campaign books is Cygnus Prime, Blood Angels versus the Demons.
Yeah, the Ruin Storm and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for me. That's because I imagine that will happen soon, and that'll be how we get our our demon list, um,
Yeah, yeah.
as
But
well as
it's no real point in us hypothesizing because we could be here until the night is over.
yes, we will be.
We are here to talk about the Space Wolves, though.
So Legion rules. What's your trait? What is it? What do you do? What makes you different from the other legions?
Bestial savagery is what makes us different. That's
So you
that
so
is the name of the rule.
so you're a world eater.
No, no, we are definitely different from world leaders. Still shock assault and tactics, mind you.
Hmm.
Very, very close. And having played against world leaders a number of times, it's a similar play style.
Yeah, I'm a world eater player for 40k, so it's charge and assault. It's how we do things.
So, bestial savagery. So, in short, infantry in the army, which has the Legion Astartes Space Wolf rule, which this will be mentioned an awful lot. I'm just going to be referring to it as Legion trait from now on
Mm-hmm.
because it just saves time. So any infantry in your army which has the Legion trait that can run may run, shoot, snapshots in the shooting phase, and charge in the assault phase. Anything that has heavy or is not infantry gets +1 weapon skill whenever they charge instead. And vehicles get +1 strength whenever they ram things.
That's quite nice.
Yeah, that's the long and short of it. So it means that my preferred tactic is to immediately run my men, because running for the uninitiated is that you no longer roll a d6 like you did in the previous edition. You just add your lowest initiative value, and you get to add that to your movement roll or movement statistic.
Yeah.
But because Space Wolves are able to both run and still charge, means that a lot of there's a lot of speed in a Space Wolf army. And I think that was the biggest shock for a lot of people coming into second edition, was how much faster Space Wolves became.
Yep.
But it's certainly a change what I fully embraced.
You definitely have, after watching what you did to the Sons of Horus the other night. Poor Matt.
Well, Horus had it coming.
He definitely did. Right. Well, that's pretty. That's a solid trait. Kind of jealous. So you got the Vaults of Mordecai, Lords of Winter, and the Wolves of Fenris.
So the vaults are war gear. So every legion gets access to its own unique war gear.
Yeah.
The Space Wolves are no different. Lords of Winter is an interesting one because this is a restriction by just innately using Space Wolves is a restriction for you.
Yeah.
So Centurions, as most know, are consuls for your army. They're normally not your warlord, but they fulfill different roles and they can adapt and be used in different ways. That's how you gain access to your librarians, your chaplains, and the likes of your forge lords and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So Lords of Winter, so it means that any Centurions of any type, so regular, Cataphracti, or Tartarus, may not select Chaplain, Librarian, or Primus Medicae console upgrades. Instead, we gain access to Packthane, Speaker of the Dead, and Caster of Ruin. So Space Wolves are one of the few legions which actually gets 3 additional consoles that are unique to them. And Wolves of Fenris is just the you can pick from the warlord traits of the Space Wolf.
Now, the Space Wolf reaction is something. Like that time that you did it to me the first time, I was like, "What the fuck? Wait a minute! What are you? It's my turn. Why are you charging me in my turn? Stop!" Yeah, that was a bit of a shock to the system.
I think that was maybe 2-3 weeks into version 1.
Yeah.
Or version 2. And yeah, as I've mentioned, I think reactions are a fantastic addition to the game.
Yeah, they are.
To further that, every legion gains access to their own unique once per game reaction. The Space Wolves have no prey escapes the wolf, so always on theme with this one. So it's a reaction that can be used in the movement phase, which is whenever an enemy unit that begins within 12 inches of you and decides to move, then you can react to that, move at your the highest initiative value in the unit, and then declare a charge. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, like, being on the receiving end of it, it makes you think. And I noticed Matt was doing the same thing when he played you.
I do want to stipulate. Sorry to interrupt, Rick, but I do want to stipulate that the unit must start within 12 and end within 12.
Yeah.
But and that's that. It's something that an awful lot of people seem to think is. I've encountered this an awful lot. Is that people just seem to think that I have the ultimate AOE bubble of doom, where I could just charge you from whatever range you come at me from.
But the thing is, you don't have to charge the unit that's moved, though, do you?
You do.
You do.
Yeah.
Oh, because that would have opened some quite nice shenanigans.
No, you must target the units that charged, or the unit that moved. But obviously, because you're able to get into close combat in the movement phase, it can be used in such really nice ways to lock down some shooting units.
Yeah.
To I love personally using it to disrupt people with their own combat units. So that they can't get their bonuses, they're on the back foot. I get all of my charging bonuses.
Yeah, because
So
you do count as though you've charged, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
it counts me. It counts the Space Wolf player as being the one who is charged.
Yeah,
So you
that's
get everything.
like as Legion reactions go, that's a powerful one.
I would even argue.
That's
I would.
powerful.
It's personally, I think that it is in every way superior to the Imperial Fist reaction.
Ooh, what's theirs?
Theirs is very similar.
They do a shoot though, don't they? If I remember rightly.
The
I think they shoot. They don't.
Imperial Fist reaction is
Yeah, they
during
do.
the
They shoot.
opposing player's movement phase, when an enemy unit ends a move within 12 inches of the line of sight of Imperial Fists, they can declare a charge. Yeah.
In inches plus equal to the d6 of the lowest initiative.
Yeah, so it's a lower charge because it's only 1d6 instead of 2d6, and you're adding, so you're rolling one less d6 on a charge, but
Yeah.
they can be further away from you and just end within 10.
Yeah, they also gain a Hammer of Wrath, and if it fails, they don't have to do the Surge move. Where you do have to do the Surge move.
Which I'm fine with.
Well, yeah, but if you screw up your charge, then not so much. Yeah.
Rick, I will let you in a secret. I have failed more charges than I care to recount in this edition. It is just something that happens, and I'm actually not that bothered with it, considering the rules of the Legion.
Yeah, but it's nice to see that you have such a powerful reaction.
Yeah.
But if your movement and the charge doesn't go well, you can end up pulling yourself into a position that may not necessarily be favourable to you. Whereas the Imperial Fist one's a little bit more reserved. That if it doesn't go to plan, they don't have to move anywhere. They can just stand where they are.
Yeah, which is in very keeping with the Imperial Fist style.
Yeah, which is good.
I think the reactions hit it on the nose. And yes, okay, if you, I mean, I have never failed a charge from this reaction.
No, because you're normally right in their face.
It's I don't know what people are going to try and do, where they're going to fail, but it's a very, very easy thing to achieve.
I think if you, for anyone that plays against Space Wolves a lot, or is going to get into the Heresy and knows that one of their local group are playing Space Wolves, that one of the things that you definitely have to be aware of is where your own units are and where their supporting units are. One of the things that I've seen and definitely sort of had, especially in the game that myself and Kyle had, was that if I have a unit on its own, it's screwed, because if it does anything within this 12-inch range, it's going to get pounced on. But I know when you did this reaction to me, I had another unit not too far away and was able to then move in and support. So it wasn't as painful as it could have been. And that's one thing that as a non-Space Wolf player you need to be, is very much mindful of having units that have overlapping supporting arcs with each other, because if you get caught out, like, the Space Wolf player will punish you for that mistake. This is not a friendly reaction to be at the end of.
It disrupts plans.
Yeah,
I
really does.
have seen people. There's been multiple games that I've played with the Space Wolves. We are a year in, and I've tried to get as many games in as possible. once a week normally.
Mhm.
And with everything that I played, and just recently having played Mechanicum as well, for the first time since version 1, is that, I mean, some people have obviously played me before, and or have seen me play games, and it changes their entire mentality of how they're going to play and bunker up. And whenever that happens, I have a field day.
Yeah, I think there's also a psychological thing with playing against Space Force, and I think watching yours and Matt's game last week made me chuckle because it was Matt's movement phase, and he measured everything. And what I found really quite amusing was he was measuring his units in regards to where they were to your units.
Yeah,
And then you were like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, they're not moving. They're not moving. I'm gonna move this unit," and then looking at you, waiting for you to go. I'm gonna react to that. And it's the psychological battle that you're winning because, like, you're on the back. You're just on this back foot and the walking on eggshells of like I want to do this, but
it's like,
am I gonna get assaulted by doing it?
is that not the most Space Wolf thing? It's like, I can't
It
get away.
is. It is. I think.
Die.
Yeah. I think it's because when it's your normally when you play these games, and it's your turn, your movement phase is generally unhindered. You're able to go right. This turn, I'm going to move here. I'm going to push onto this objective. I'm going to set this charge up, and you formulate a plan in your head, and then you
Yeah,
execute it. But
you're playing an assault army. It's like,
yeah, yeah, you want to get in there and have that fight, and normally, okay, reactions as a whole in second edition can kind of sort of throw that around because you might move forward and someone will react by redeploying away from you and all this kind of stuff. And this kind of happens in Age of Sigmar as well. But with the
oh, there's
Space Wolf
nothing,
Legion,
nothing better than retreating whenever
yeah,
somebody just has 12-inch range unmelted
yeah,
on you
yeah,
and just jumping out of the way.
yeah. But with the Space Wolf Legion, you're having to not only think about your plan, but what the Space Wolf player is also hoping you do, because they're going, if he moves forward onto that crater, that unit is going to move forward and assault him. And
Yeah,
it's a hard thing to.
the Space Wolves definitely promotes an aggressive
Yeah,
playstyle.
you need to learn how to bait better against Space Wolves. You need to bait that out. But I think
Yeah,
that's going to be an interesting. I'm looking forward to coming up against you again.
yeah, because I mean, not to be punishing or anything, but definitely I'm a little bit more long in the tooth than I was whenever I started playing Space Wolves, and definitely I I use aggression better than I did. Used to be, I was just like a blood clot, would just send everything forward and expect it to hold up,
Yeah.
and now it's more, how do I get them there without many issues? And then being able to destroy everything.
So you've got a couple of Legion traits. I imagine that this is the same format, Loyalist Trader.
Yeah, it's the exact same. Every legion gets its own unique trait. You can still take the ones from the core rulebook,
Yeah.
and some of I've actually there's one core trait that I think is worth an honorable mention in this, but we'll go through these first,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about that.
So which one do you want to start off with?
Let's
Which out of the three, which is your favorite?
Hoyle of Mordecai is definitely
Okay.
my favorite.
And why is that? What is it? What does it do?
So Hoyle of Mordecai. So once per battle, you can, as long as your warlord is still alive, you can call the Hoyle of Mordecai, and for the duration of that turn, all of your friendly Space Wolf units with the Space Wolf trait gets a +1 strength if they are part of a successful charge.
Wow, that's nice. That's wow. So that ties in nicely with your Legion trait of +1 weapon skill. Wow,
Yeah,
it's
so
pretty
there's
nice.
you're going to notice some synergies which which stack up. So on top of this, your warlord grants you an extra reaction in the movement phase,
Yeah,
which is very important because that's where your space wolf reaction lives.
yeah,
And you don't, because obviously in the movement phase, if you want to advance or withdraw or intercept,
okay,
um, that's all movement phase reactions. So having an extra one is a very, very important thing for me.
okay.
The +1 strength, also key to hitting that. I like hitting strength 6 whenever I'm charging things with my Marines. Just because.
Why would you not want to be strength 6?
Yeah, there's a few synergies that go along with that, which you may notice
Yes.
as we go along. But 6 is the key number to keep in your mind.
No, it is
So
a
that's the Harl of Mordecai. So
so
it is.
Hunger of the Void.
So Hunger the Void's an interesting one. So this is pretty much you're gearing up you want your warlord to be geared up to be an HQ killer. It's like he's going to get mad skills for just being him, and he doesn't give anybody else any benefits. Right?
Yep.
So the Hunger the Void. So a warlord with this trait gains an additional wound at the end of any assault phase in which he inflicts at least one unsaved wound on an enemy model. So
Right.
pretty good whenever you get him into combat. This cannot increase the warlord's wound characteristic above its starting value. But if the effect is triggered while he has his maximum wounds, he instead gains +1 attack and +1 strength until the end of your next turn.
Okay.
And your warlord grants you an additional reaction in the assault phase.
Hmm. Nice.
So you can make them stacked up. It's like my idea. It's always like it's the gene curse. In the likes of the Hunger of the Void,
Yeah.
it's those who are just that little bit more savage and bloodthirsty.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's if you're wanting to take it like a small game, Hunger of the Void and a champion would not be a bad shout.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
that'll normally do something with a champion.
Yeah, it's a shame that it doesn't work with the war gear items though. Like the wounds characteristic and stuff.
Well, you're already getting a +1 from. So whenever we talk about the armory, you gain a +1 wound from having Ether Rune armor.
Yeah.
So you're already stacked on wounds. The fact that you're healing, and if you don't heal, you gain plus strength and attacks, isn't bad.
Okay.
And if something's going to instant kill you, you're suffering the same problems as everybody else. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So Crownbreaker. See, it's got my two favorite words. Well, three favorite words. Feel no pain. I like that.
Yeah. So Crownbreaker is the warlord and all models in the unit that he joins get preferred enemy independent character. Right? So
Okay.
that is massive. And that means that if not only if you have lone independent characters, but if there's independent characters in a unit, then the unit is also getting that preferred enemy fire.
Yeah.
It's really good. I mean, re-rolling fails all the time. I mean, what's not to like? They also gain the crown breaker aspect again is that they gain feel no pain 5 up when they're locked in a combat with one or more enemy models with the independent character special rule.
Okay.
So they don't need to be in a challenge with them. They just need to be in a combat with them. So you're already designing in your head. You'd go for a unit of like veterans or a command squad, something like that, and you'd add this guy in, and he just gives them all preferred enemy. It's an interesting way is you could actually stick them with like a ranged squad, like a heavy support squad, to give them preferred enemy, which could be really nasty.
Yeah, it could be.
But ideally, you want them in combat and you want them killing characters, right? He's there to try and take the head off.
Okay. Nice.
And they gain it's another assault phase reaction that you gain as well.
Yeah, which is it's obviously if you're going to be playing heavily into your Legion reaction, then not so much.
But it's not to say because Russ and Val Blade have their own specific warlord traits, which add reactions in the assault phase.
We will get onto the Wolf King in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get on to him soon. Getting that movement phase reaction addition is actually really difficult because Howl of Mordecai is your only option.
Yeah.
Now, Ever Vigilant from the core book has an interesting dynamic to it because so Ever Vigilant reads that you instead of taking the lowest initiative characteristic for a run, you take the warlords. So normally you're getting it on a 5 instead of a 4. But it gives you an additional movement phase reaction, and considering the speed of Space Wolves, it can be quite a nasty combo to have like a spear tip be able to shoot across the board in the first turn and engage the enemy. I think I've got the math right where I would be able to do that if all my stuff lined up.
Okay.
But yeah, it's mad thought. Ever Vigilant is a decent choice though.
I like the look of the Rights of War. Definitely, like from a loss. I'm just flicking over it now, and from a loss perspective, I like the Black Watch one only because it instantly I spring to mind of the pack of Space Wolves with the Blood Angels when they go to the Demon World. It's actually quite an amusing story.
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. So they've added so going from first edition to second edition, this is a brand new Right of War that the Space Wolves developed. Now, because of the idea behind what they're calling these the Black Watch, and I think the idea was that Russ decided to send out these watch packs to each of the other Primarchs and say, "Is like, if you're gonna mess up, these guys have permission to try and kill you."
It was, I think it was Russ and Malkador that come up with it, and essentially they were sent out to assess not all. Obviously, this was after the Heresy had broke out, and they were sent to assess if these legions were loyal. So like you had it seemed to be only like a pack.
Yeah, because it can only be. I mean, what would be the point in sending people off to people that you know are the enemy?
Well,
right?
Yeah, but it was kind of like at the time it was the ones that they weren't sure about because they knew 4 of the legions had turned traitor, but it was the others. They were sent to people like the Word Bearers, the Night Lords, the Iron Warriors, and the Alpha Legion. Obviously, those packs were killed, but they were also sent to like the Blood Angels, the Ultramarines, and there is a very good. They are in the Fear to Tread Blood Angel novel, and when they turn up, Like they're very clear and honest about what they're there for. They're sent to assess Sanguinius, and the Blood
I
Angels
think
are like all raising an eyebrow at them, like what? And they're
if
like,
if I'm right in saying, was it the Ultramarines? Gilliman actually got on with his watch pack.
he did. He actually brought them into his council, and like they fought heavily alongside the Ultramarines. The Blood Angel ones, if anyone has not read it, spoilers, they're eaten by the Blood Angels.
And would you imagine that they were never able to find Korax?
Uh, I believe they do get the Legion, but I don't think they ever get anywhere near him.
They find elements of the Legion, but they never were able to find Korax.
Yeah,
So I believe they went off on their own mini adventure.
yeah.
Um, just since
The
trying to find Korax would be a pretty difficult task, right?
yeah the most documented um, pack is the one that gets sent with the Blood Angels, and that's only because they're in the novel. But their fate is quite. You kind of get the pack's hunkered down in a crater, fighting off demons, and then they sign to see the Blood Angels in the distance, and
Yeah,
they're like and they're all speaking amongst each other like that. They're going nuts. They've gone feral, and then it kind of switches. You kind of stop hearing about them for quite a few chapters, and then at the end, it's the captain who eventually founds the Flesh Tearers, Amit or Amir, I think he's called, and um, he eventually is talking to some of his subordinates, and one of his like lieutenants are like, "Did we, did we really do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think so, brother." And it's like, yeah, I think they charged and then eaten the Space Wolves.
well,
Um,
in terms of the game, I don't well, certainly I don't think I can recommend having this little rite of war acting as an allied detachment because that's what it's meant for, to
yeah,
go alongside other people's armies.
I
I
think
mean,
it's a fluffy way of including a couple of
yeah, because
Space
you don't
Wolves.
want to spend an awful lot of points on them. They're just meant to be like a squad and like an HQ.
Yeah,
There's no real point in like dishing it out for serious potential.
yeah,
It's like that splashing, that flavor unit that you want to add, and I think that it's backed up in its rules.
yeah.
So
It's nice.
the so all models with the Legion trait in this rite of war gain hatred raiders and preferred enemy Primarch.
Because they are there to kill a Primarch.
All models in this detachment gain fearless when they're locked in combat with a Primarch that has the traitor special rule, or is otherwise using the traitor allegiance. I guess that's to go in for like campaigns and stuff. Is like you might just need to move over and play a traitor.
Yeah,
But it's nice that that's included. That sort of caveat that happens. And whenever a unit from this detachment charges, and it includes a model with a Primarch, you get +2 to your charge rolls.
solid.
You can't take any vehicles or Primarchs. You can only take it with an army using the Loyalist Allegiance. So you're not restricted in taking other Marines. You could ally these in with your Mechanicum, your Imperialis Militia, your Solar Auxilia. Um, it's really flexible. As a splash in, I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah. Quite.
Uh,
It's a fun little write. Definitely good for narrative games.
yeah. It's something if you just want that little like side project, you've got a box of Marines, so you've got a few bits and pieces left over, and you just want to build a few. It's really cool.
Cool. So, out of the Pale Hunter and the Bloody Claw, which is the one that you run the most?
So on a day-to-day basis, I would normally go with Bloody Claw.
Okay.
However, I forced myself to play the Pale Hunter Rite of War at the
Right.
campaign bit, and I loved it.
So,
You need, yeah.
so in essence, one focuses on Grey Slayer packs, the other focuses on Blood Claws.
So that's a sort of that's so the Bloody Claw is, I think, the way that it sort of describes it, and it described it in the first edition, is the Pale Hunter's Rite of War emulates the likes of almost the savagery before they found Rust. The way that they would descend on enemies from all directions
Okay.
and try and wipe them out. Whereas the Bloody Claw is the sort of the refinement of that, where you're able to rile up everybody whenever you most need it, and they're going to be stronger for it.
Right. Okay. Ooh.
So that I think that comes quite across quite well in the Rites of War, because the Bloody Claws it's the one with the least amount of restrictions,
Yeah.
and that's the why you will take it most often, because. So the Bloody Claw is once per battle, and this is a solid theme throughout Space Wolf, is that we get a lot of you can trigger this once abilities throughout the entire force, which sort of it helps your play and sort of assists your play whenever you most need it. Sort of like a combination of what like orcs do in 40k with like WAs and things,
Yeah.
but minor benefits that are once per game as opposed to getting only one thing and having I think it's really good because you have all that. It helps your play because you're thinking ahead and you're waiting for your opponent to do what they do and then trigger your abilities to make you move faster, to make you fight stronger, so that then you know you're going to get in there because you've seen what they're going to do.
Okay.
So it means Bloody Claw is once per battle. At the start of your turn, you may declare a Bloody Claw. You gain so everything with the Legion trait gains +1 to determine the score of assault, so to determine the winner.
Mm-hmm.
You gain everything gains Fleet 2 and Furious Charge 1, and everything gains Stubborn. And if they have Stubborn, they get Fearless.
Nice.
The limitations is that whenever you call the Bloody Claw, you must try and charge.
Okay.
Yeah, eligible targets in range and line of sight. You need to roll that charge.
Right. I mean, as limitations go for both of them, there's not many.
There's not many, but Bloody Claws means that you still have. I'm definitely a weird Space Wolf player, I think, because I love the heavy support slot. It's always chock full of goodies, and having those three heavy support slots compared to the Pale Hunters is really good.
Yeah. Well,
But we'll talk about the Pale Hunters, and you can sort of see the direction that it went. And this was actually the Rite of War that I was using in the game against Sons of Horus as well.
yeah.
So in the Pale Hunters, so all Grey Slayer and Grey Stalker packs gain hit and run.
Ooh.
And whenever they make hit and runs, they may choose to move a distance up instead of moving the full distance.
Hit and run is
so
good.
you can hit and run, and then you can stop your hit and run as soon as you're out of combat. You can be 1 inch away.
Yeah.
Which is really, really good. On a turn, which any unit from this detachment is part of a flanking assault, all models in that unit gain Fleet 2 and Rage 2 until the end of the turn in which it entered play.
Ouch.
Then, on top of that, you have up to 3 units in the detachment, made up of entirely models with infantry or cavalry, and the Space Wolf rule may be upgraded to have outflank for no additional cost.
That's solid. Very solid.
Limitations: you can only have 1 heavy support choice, and at least 1 unit must be assigned to the outflank.
Yeah, but dreadnoughts are elites, not heavy support.
Correct.
So there's your mobile firepower right there.
I haven't been doing it that way.
No, there's a shock.
There's the unwritten rule that has appeared as we have had second edition for a full year now is Contemptor dreadnoughts are ridiculous.
They are.
For the points value, they are ridiculous. I, however, argue the Leviathan is more balanced.
But I love Leviathans.
And decided in this list to take a Leviathan instead of taking any Contemptors, and eschewed all forms of ranged combat for this list. It's really good. Normally, whenever the outflank assault happens, because all of these units are going to be coming on at the same time, of course, and they get to pin everything that they're near whenever they appear, and then you get to assault with them that same turn. And it makes for some really, really interesting unit choices. I am personally a big fan of an assault squad.
Okay.
Because with the combination of the Legion rule because they're not heavy and they are able to run, they can use their jump packs, run, benefit from the Fleet 2 on the run, so that 4 now is a 6, putting them at 18-inch range movement coming on from the table edge. Then, whenever they charge you, because they will charge you, they're getting a +4 to that dice roll because of the Fleet 2 that's involved.
Nice.
It's obviously the likelihood of getting hold the line done on that sort of unit with that weight of attacks is likely, but assault marines are cheap, so you crack on.
That's going to be nice. I can't wait for the plastic assault marines to come out.
Yes. Did you see the original renders that they did of that?
Yeah, which I seen people commenting in that like they're only just sculpting them now. These would have been sculpted a while ago. It's just that's all they're willing to show us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was most interested just because of the shape of the jump pack, because we've never seen a proper Mark 6 jump pack before.
Yeah, I like it. I like them. I'm looking forward to getting lots of them because I love assault marines.
Yeah. You
Marines.
could. Even as a Salamander player, I think that you should embrace the assault marine.
So I can't wait. Run around with 2 flamers. But we'll not talk about salamanders because that's going to be in the next episode. So your armory, you've got an extensive armory. You've probably got one of the biggest armories compared to other legions. And there's a lot of options here. A lot of options.
We get some really cool options.
You've got bits. You've got some candy.
We've got some nice bits that aren't mandatory, but you'll see as you go along is like some things work, some things don't. But it's a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about is a nice sideways upgrade
Yeah.
or a side grade as opposed to something that's outright better.
I am just going to check one thing though, because I remember the argument about this back in first edition. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Ah, yeah, there you go. They have fixed it. Back in first edition with the frost weapons, there was a big argument of what one of the models was actually carrying. Was it the Great Frostblade or just a Frostblade?
Yeah,
And many
they've
people
gone.
argued, and they fixed it. They have fixed it. He now
Yeah,
carries a Great Frostblade.
yeah, that is a massive, massive
Just like
fix
to,
that was never was addressed. But I think
I just like to point out,
everybody happened.
I was right. I used to call it a Greater Frostblade. I was told I was wrong by lots of people. I was right. It's vindication. It's taken me a long time, but I've finally got it. But yes, even online, I used to get that when although I would never buy those Terminators because they're awful. Um, Banana fur just doesn't work for me.
Let's. I mean, we can. In terms of, I think let's leave that whenever we talk about the unit, because it does deserve a mention properly.
No. So you've got Fenris axes. So any model, and looking at your army, you have a lot of axes. Can take a Fenris axe for 2 points. They give you +1 strength, melee, and reaping blow. What's reaping blow?
A reaping blow is whenever you're in base contact with more than one model, you get an extra attack.
Because Space Wolves really need that.
So it's interesting because there is a lot of argument as to whether these are actually any good.
Well,
Because the chain sword has shred.
yes.
Being able to re-roll wounds is pretty big, pretty big. Now I mentioned that glorious number 6 earlier on. So what does Fenris Axel give you?
+1 strength and reaping blow 1.
Yeah, so that +1 strength stacks with your +1 strength, which gets you that glorious number 6.
Yeah.
Which chainswords can't manage. The best that they'll be able to do is against typical marine units is re-rolling 3s to wound whenever you have that buff in place.
Yeah, I think Blood Angels can get 5 strength 5 on the charge with shred.
Yeah, I think
is the
Night
best
Lords
that they can do. Yeah.
Yeah, because whenever Night Lords outnumber you, they bully you, so they get extra bonuses. Blood Angels get it all the time, I think. So this is the way that I combat it. Is I don't want to be on 3s. I want to be wounded on 2s. Since I don't have the reliability of being able to reroll, I think that aiming for strength 6 is where to go, so that you can still land a number of those attacks. You're not always going to get the reaping blow. It comes up very rarely, depending on your placement.
Yeah, I do like the fact that reaping blow is a common thing through your war gear. Even looking at the frost weapons, it's pretty much on all of them. Well, it is on all of them.
It gives a good representation of Space Wolves fight harder whenever they've got more than one person trying to fight them.
So frost weapons, if you're a 40k player, you know what a frost weapon is. Space Wolves have been using them for quite some time, since pretty much 5th edition. But essentially, you've got frost swords, frost axes, frost claws, greater frost blades, which is your 2-handed variant. They all give you a +1 strength or +2 strength, apart from the claws, because they're lightning claws. Lightning claws rock. So love claws.
So in terms of stats, it's comparable to your regular power weapons.
With an additional rule.
Yeah, so the frost sword gives up rending gets Reaping Blow,
Yeah.
and gets +1 strength. So you don't have that chance of getting into AP2 for those cheeky rending hits, but you still have a power sword, which is +1 strength.
Yeah.
The Frost Axe, same as the Power Axe. It's +1 strength. It's AP2. It's all of these are specialist weapon, which is different from the Power Sword and the Power Axe. It still has unwieldy, but I think that of the single-handed stuff, the Frost Axe is probably one of the better things to go for.
AP2 is, well, the power axe is also AP2, but the power axe is not a specialist weapon, and it's unwieldy. So
Yeah, but it's about how many attacks you're going to get in that combat. And if you have a specialist weapon, unless you have two, you're not getting that bonus attack.
yeah, but the normal axes for non-Space Wolf legions are you don't really want unwieldy because you don't really want to be down to initiative 1.
Oh, I disagree. I think that definitely having some, and certainly the way that my units work, having those hidden axes in there
Yeah,
is
but
always nice to have that like cheeky last hit.
you've got additional things on your axes. With normal regular legions. Now I would happily go for unwieldy for things like thunderhammers, but then my units are going to be a lot more tankier than
I
most
I
others.
I take, I take a hell of a lot of power axes in my army.
You do,
Um, because Frostblades, unlike an awful lot of other legions, our stuff can only go on our independent characters.
yeah,
So you're exchanging that power weapon that you have for 5 points. And if it's a great Frostblade, you're exchanging it for 10.
hmm
But it's only happening on those independent characters. So your HQs are the only ones that are going to really benefit from this stuff, unless it's there are other unique units in the army which gain access to them, but you don't gain them throughout your entire force.
yeah. And then you've got your Aether Rune armor, which ties into your Warlord trait. So an independent character can have this for 25 points. It basically exchanges its Artificer armor. So you get a 2-up save, and in addition increases your wound characteristic of that model by 1, and then grants Adamantium Will 4 plus as well. That's the anti-psyker thing, isn't it?
It is now an invulnerable save against psychic power,
Yeah, okay.
which also helps you if you're going to be trying to do any of your own psychic powers, because then that can save you from peril.
And then you've got Jarls, which is essentially just your term of a Praetor.
So it's a Praetor upgrade. It's a rarity. I don't think any other legions get this, or something similar to it for their Praetor, other than I think Salamanders. You get your cloak for your independent
Um,
character
yeah, we
or
get a
your
cloak,
Praetor.
but this is seems to be a, what is it? It's an upgrade. Yeah, we just ours is like a 35-point item. This is like literally a designation. I would probably put that to akin of someone like a Forge Father for the Iron Hands.
Oh yeah, good shout. Or like a warsmith for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Iron
It's
Hand or Iron
it's like
Warriors, that
it's
sort of
yeah,
thing.
it's like a
Yeah,
reclassification of that unit type.
yeah. So
Um,
this it's a really good upgrade. Every single time you take a Praetor in a Space Wolf army, you will always want this.
oh yeah, yeah,
Um, it,
definitely.
it is quintessential goodness.
It is interesting that it's now a point. It's like a point change. Because if I remember rightly, in first edition, it basically just said all your praetors were essentially just known as jarls. There was no difference in points or anything else. It just anything
Yeah,
for referring to them. They were referred to as Jarls rather than as Praetors.
yeah. So it works the same way in second edition, and it's the the Space Wolf formula has obviously shifted from first edition
Mm.
because in first edition you had limitations
You had to
on top.
take you had to take a Praetor every 1,000 points.
You had to take an HQ, and you always want to have a Master of the Legion so that you can access your right of war, which gives you your bonuses. So I mean, whenever you were fielding a 3,000 point army, you had to field a minimum of 3 HQs.
Yeah.
If you go beyond that, then you have to take another HQ.
Hmm.
So having that and having that generic formula to follow, and having those limitations only from Centurions, because we were more limited in the first edition,
Yeah, we
where
were.
we couldn't take tactical squads, we couldn't take there were certain other generic units which were out of bounds, and now Space Wolves have the same inventory as every other Legion player, but the stuff that we have that is unique is still, I would argue, superior in some ways.
Okay.
Uh, and the Jarl upgrade, I think, is just fantastic. It's not mandatory, but it's definitely something to always spend 10 points on, because the rules for it is it grants your Praetor counterattack 2,
Hmm.
and you get to grant him the skirmish subtype if you wish, which comes up a lot in this army.
Yeah.
And skirmish is that you have a 3-inch coherency in units instead of a 2-inch coherency. So you can really spread those units out if you wanted to.
Yeah. And then you've obviously got your console upgrade, which is your Thane for 10 points. Which is kind of interesting. I like that restrictions wise for this model is he can't take a jet bike or a Legion Sparta combat bike. But again, you gain the special rule counter attack 1 and the skirmish subtype as well. So
Now, this is a brand new insert into version 2. And I see what they were going for, but there's no point in this console.
do, is is
Because
is if your Praetors, if your Jarl Praetor is the skirmish, does that go to all of your army, or is it just the unit
no.
he joins in?
So skirmish applies to that unit. It needs to Everything needs to benefit from skirmish so that you can skirmish.
Right. Well,
If you don't,
I can see why that's there then.
yeah,
If you're gonna go for a heavy infantry based army and want that, you know, skirmish real spread out so blast templates aren't gonna really hammer you, then having a few of the Thanes or maybe an extra one or two scattered throughout your other larger packs, it's gonna spread them out a lot more.
the only benefit to this guy is the cost. He is the cheapest console upgrade for a Centurion in the game. 10 points to make a guy counterattack 1
Hmm.
is honestly the cheapest thing. However, there's so many units in this army that have counterattack 1 already
Yeah,
that he's not actually helping anything that you'll want to take in the army.
yeah.
You would need to design a reason to take him. So if it were me, maybe give him a jump pack, put him with my assault marines to grant them the counterattack 1.
Well, yeah. Well, that's
But
what I mean because your Grey Slayers come with counter attack and skirmish anyway.
yeah, I mean
So
all Space Wolf units.
So it's your non Space Wolf stuff. So tactical
Yeah,
support squads, assault squads, your war
yeah.
crime
So
units.
if you want to give them a little bit of extra punch whenever they get charged, yeah, this is the guy to take. But he's a throwaway.
I
He's not that important.
yeah, I can see thematically what he's there for.
Yeah, it's always one of those things. It's like you've got your battle leaders, and you've got your lieutenant, which your jarl comes along with, and they just come in and take charge, right?
Yeah. But you do have two other console types.
Yes, we do. And these are the console types that replace our chaplain, librarian, and primus medicae.
Right, okay.
So, first one, Speaker of the Dead. This is your chaplain slash medic. He, it's a 65 point upgrade, which is pretty steep for a centurion, but for what he gets and what he has, I think this guy is really good. So he increases his leadership to 10, and all models with the wolf trait get stubborn and hatred everything. So your chaplain stuff, right?
Yeah. He's your wolf priest.
He is the wolf priest. Your centurion also gains a narthesium and a mastercrafted power maul for no additional points cost. He can't take 2 lightning claws or a boarding shield, which isn't a problem because you're never going to do that.
But a Space Wolf chaplain with 2 lightning claws would look awesome.
It would, but there's other things you could turn into that model, and it would be equally awesome.
Yeah.
So, Narthesium, the Narthesium is obviously what gives the unit, gives him and the unit that he is with feel no pain 5 up. So he is literally a chaplain medic. Yeah, he's really good. Hatred everything. Leadership 10, stubborn. What is not to like? The fact that he comes with a free power weapon means that you can just spend that 10 points and turn it into a great frostblade.
Yeah. I'm just loving the picture underneath the Speaker of the Dead rules, and loving that the design studio has amazingly kit bashed Mark III plastics and the Grey Hunter 40k Space Wolf kit to create some quite interesting kit bash models there. It's really quite nice to see.
Yeah, solid.
It's quite nice. Then I forget that you can actually do that with the Mark III on like the Mark VI.
I've done it with the Mark VI as well. Wasn't too bad for the conversion.
Lots of cutting.
None.
I thought
I built a unit of Grey Slayers in Mark VI.
The Mark VI are not like the Primaris Marines where the legs and the chest are like they go together.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
But that's not a huge problem because certainly I found that the foot placement isn't everything in a model, and if it's already done for you in these, it's like you get 5 poses with the Mark VI, of course, and the posing the arms and the heads in different ways brings out so much additional character instead of just thinking, oh, every Mark VI Marine is just a beaky guy who you just have, everybody has bolters and stuff like that. So what I did was I combined it with the Grey Slayer kit from Forge World. So I took that. I took the Mark VI wolf heads, which I know everybody loves, right? And I took the plastic marines and I put the plastic marines together, and the only cleaning up of that model that I had to do was there's a tiny little nub on the side where the arm would normally slot on.
Yeah.
With the plastic arms, just slicing that off, makes a clean flat surface for those resin parts.
Hmm.
And I added those Mark III Grey Slayer parts to those Mark Six, and they look they look cracker.
Cool.
They look, it's like some are walking forward, some are shields up, some are swinging wide. It's every single one of them looks unique and different, and it's all it came together as a really cool unit.
Hmm. Nice. Well, I just looking at the aesthetics of the two kits together in that photo is actually really quite nice, and it's actually money wise for definitely getting, because obviously Heresy is a little bit expensive compared to normal 40k. They're
Yeah, I'll go with that.
but so buying like a box of 20 Mark III, and then buying like a Grey Hunter kit, and then being able to kit bash the 30 Marines that you've got there to get quite a nice sort of basis of a force is really good. Um,
Honestly, my suggestion would be the definitely the Grey Hunter kit, but specifically all of the Blood Claw parts.
yeah. Oh yes, because you get a
Um,
lot of
you get a
a
lot.
lot of close combat arms in that kit.
It's all about the bolt pistols and the
Yeah,
chainswords.
they are.
That is
Or you,
everything.
or you could do what I did and give Forge World £40.
Did you buy? How many did you buy?
I haven't bought any yet. I'm tempted. I might do it once.
I mean,
Um,
I I understand that I am in such a position that I can go and be weird and order those terrible Mark Six wolf helms and also buy the Mark Six shoulder pads and Grey Slayer kits to kit back some Mark Six Grey Slayers. But that is not for everybody.
those arms are like I honestly didn't expect them to be like £19.50. Like I really thought when we were talking the other night, I was like, nah, they're going to be about 12 quid. Nah, because you know that one dreadnought chess piece is 12 quid. But I didn't think
Yeah,
they were going to be nearly £20 for essentially six models worth of stuff. I was
and
like, wow.
and we're talking from people that get UK prices. I
Yeah.
mean, people in America, Canada, Australia, they suffer a lot for their
Yeah,
prices.
Australia and New Zealand get shafted, really
Yeah.
do. But anyway, that is
Oh,
literally that's a topic for another. Right, so back to your console. So you got the caster who runs, so 45 points. He's basically
so
your run priest.
yes, he's our not librarian.
He's
Um,
your Earth wizard.
yeah, pretty much. He 45 points. I mean, he's comparable to the librarian in every single way. The only real difference is that you gain access to, you have limitations to what psychic powers you have
Yeah,
compared
which
to
which is good.
generic, which is good. And we're one of the few legions to get our own unique psychic power.
Yeah.
The only other ones I think are salamanders and the white scars.
Well, Thousand Suns, but then they're
Thousand
all
Suns.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, the
And
white that we do, what salamanders do, and it's not Bernie. Well, it kind of is, but yeah, it's. I'm not too sure what the white scars. It's something to do with horses. Not too sure. Uh,
Storm Stealers, I think they're called.
so you also get access to divination, telekinesis, and biomancy. Biomancy still do all of the Healy stuff.
Uh, I I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna have to look at the book because I have not taken a psyker in version 2 yet.
I'm going to change the meta in our local gaming area. I'm bringing a psyker.
Good.
The Emperor was wrong. Um, should have sided with
Do
the
do
White Scars.
do that traitor salamanders on it.
It's not traders. It's geomancy. It's nothing to do with space magic. So you've got you've got a psychic weapon, Wrath of the Death Wolf, which is a template. Strength 5, AP 4, Assault 1, Deflagellate, and Force. Obviously, it's going to be a force weapon. And any psyker with this weapon or ability with this special rule may choose to make a psychic check before making any attacks with that weapon or resolving the ability. If the check is successful, then the strength value of the attacks made is doubled. Strength 10. Nice. Strength 10 AP4. Screw you, guard. If the check is failed, then the Perils of the Warp attack is resolved, targeting the unit containing the model, and that failed the check, and the Psyker survives the Perils of the Warp. It may then attack as normal. That's pretty good. I mean, doing your psychic check and getting it off and then getting it to be strength 10. That's pretty nice.
It's definitely situational, but because you're able to go to that strength 10, it can definitely do some work.
Well,
definitely.
yeah, it's that's auto killing, instant killing any Marine that fails its armor check.
Yeah, I don't think this is truly something you want to throw at Marines, though. This is where you want to use this guy against Solar Auxilia, Mechanicum, Militia, and just anything that isn't heavy, pretty much.
And you do also have a psychic power, Storm Wrought, which sounds quite interesting. You make it snow. It's basically frozen.
This is I mean, Space Wolf players will always know, like our psychers like to cast like mists and fogs and freezing winds and do all that sort of stuff. And this is another take of that, where you're cloaking a unit in a storm while you're trying to cross the table.
So if anyone wants a visual representation, watch Elsa in Frozen making a ice castle. It's literally what the Space Wolves do. While singing. In fact, I think we should make Kyle sing Let It Go when he casts this ability.
Let it go, Rick. Let it
go. No, but that's good. Shroud 3+ is nice. That's nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to, because it can go on infantry, cavalry, and dreadnoughts.
Hey, it's a layer of defense that you may not always have.
Yeah, there's not an awful lot of night vision or ignore cover weapons in the game.
Don't even start me on night vision, Kyle. It's a real sore subject.
So, I mean, getting a free 5 Outshrouded, and then if you want to, which you will, to push to get that 3 Outshrouded, it's the reason you take this guy.
I think especially in our local meta, when not many people run Psychers, you're not really gonna have someone to try to stop this.
Would you be shocked in hearing that the Night Lord player loves him?
Why would I not? Why doesn't surprise me with Chris. Doesn't. Like, anything is just it doesn't surprise me. He's a filthy trader. It's just, I hate Night Lords.
So that's the end of our upgrades. So it is. Now we're on to the units.
We have Mr. Ross, the King of Wolves.
Yeah, the King of Combat. Hey, my current track record is looking pretty good at the moment.
I'm starting the smack talk now for when Vulcan comes up and slaps the shit out of him.
Hey, I'm happy for the throwdown. I'm always happy for the throwdown.
It's one of the most combat Primarchs against one of the most defensive. It's going to be a good fight.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be. I bet you I get one-shotted.
No, Primarch fights do last a couple of rounds.
I will roll 8 ones. So 450 points, and he doesn't even get his dogs with him. Oh.
No, but they're a nice little addition you can take whenever you take him.
Yeah. Initiative 7 is base. He's probably one of the fastest Primarchs. I think Fulgrim and possibly Korax are probably faster than him. I don't think Kurz isn't.
He's definitely up there.
Yeah.
I think Fulgrim is still faster.
Well, yeah, he's initiative. I think he's initiative 8 base, and then he has all of his Legion stuff,
Yeah.
which gets him up to a lot higher.
But initiative 7 is definitely in the higher echelons of speed.
And 7 attacks. That's meaty.
Yeah, 7 attacks, and it's always going to be 8 attacks before you count in any charge or counter charge.
Yeah.
Because he has 2 weapons, of course.
Yeah. But this is the age-old question: is this a Primarch that does he benefit the Legion, or does he hinder?
Because he helps his Legion now.
Nice.
So before in first edition, he didn't really help the army at all.
No, he didn't.
You got to take veterans and terminators and stuff as different selections whenever you took them. That's no longer the case. They've honed in on what Russ should have done.
Yeah.
And they've made him a lot more. He gives a nice bonus for being there, and it's really good instead of getting your normal warlord traits and stuff. Because that's what it's all built into now is his warlord trait. He has a once per game ability, and then he's got his armor and his weapon.
Yeah.
And that's the basic breakdown of the gear that he has. And most importantly, of course, he has frag grenades.
Yeah. Those all important grenades. So his warlord trait is if you've got him in the army, you gain a bonus +1 to their strength for the duration of any turn in which a unit successfully charges. That's nice. So
it's an overcharged Howl of Mordecai, which is just always all.
Charges an enemy unit. In addition, there's more. An army with Leman Russ as its warlord gets 2 reactions in the assault phase. And then you've got your Howl. Which I've seen you do that Howl.
So, yeah, the Howl is his once per game ability. You declare it at the start of your turn, and all models with the Space Wolf trait gain +1 to their movement characteristics. And enemy units that include 1 or more models with the Space Wolf trait must take immediate pinning tests.
I have no words.
I think it's really cool. I mean, getting your Marines up to getting your standard Marines up to movement 8 means that you get that extra +1 on the charge.
Yes.
Plus, you're likely to be doing your bloody claw, which is going to give you fleet 2. It meshes into the army so well.
Yeah, he's definitely a force multiplier.
Yeah, and obviously, as my love of the number 6 is coming up again, because of his warlord trait, everybody's going to be strength 6 on the charge whenever you get him.
Yeah. So he has his armor, which is a 2-up armor save, standard for a Primarch, and a 4-up invulnerable save, which is increased to a 3+ against Flamer, Melter, and Plasma weapons. Who does he think he is, Vulcan?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something about some sort of environmental system that he had in his armor or something like that.
Bet Vulcan made it for him. Barnaby. And in addition, enemy models in base contact with Leman Russ always suffer a -1 to hit in the first round of combat. After... What's that? That's not it. Yes, it is. In any turn in which Leman Russ makes a successful charge. Nice. So he's lost that really annoying thing that he did in first edition.
Yeah,
where you just got progressively harder to hit him.
so their first edition went through a few different iterations of the Russ's armor. Because there was obviously the original one, which we all know was the most disgusting version. And they tried to fix it, but they were still confused, and a lot of people were still confused about how it actually worked properly.
Yeah.
And now that this is just you're -1 to hit in the first round of combat, you need to be in base to base.
Yeah.
Simple as. The losing, because it used to be that it was the first turn of a combat you were -2 to hit him, and then in the second round of combat you were -1 to hit him, and it was too good. It was too good, and I still really like it. It's not really all that much of a benefit because most of the time Russ is going to be hit on 6s anyway.
Yeah. Well, the good thing with like second edition is that they cleaned up some rules terminologies that seventh edition didn't have. That essentially a 6 always hits and a 1 always fail.
Well, that has changed.
Well, it should be. That is a second edition thing, is it?
So weapon skill, the grid has changed. That if you breach a certain point, some people you just you can hit anybody, and 6 is always the thing you can do.
Yeah,
it's wounding is
the wounding is different, but you're always able to hit someone. But in first edition, you weren't. It had that weird scaling thing that you pushed them to like needing 7s and 8s, and you were like, well, you can't roll that, so you essentially can't actually hit somebody.
So making it that it has to be like 6.
So it is good. He obviously has his sword and his axe. Because he can't just have one weapon. He has to have 2.
Well, I mean, this is only a very small selection from his armory, right?
Well, he has a spear, but no one actually knows where that is right now because he keeps throwing it away when he's drunk, which is lots of times.
The Sword of Bale Knight, however,
+1 strength, AP2. That's nice. Murderous Strike 4+, Brutal 2. That's the sweet spot right there. Fearsome Ruin and Master Crafted. And Fearsome Ruin suffers 1 or more casualties from a weapon with a special rule and makes a morale check during the assault phase. Must roll an additional d6 and keep the 2 highest, which I did see in action the other week, and it's pretty solid. That's a solid.
It's the murder sword.
Yeah.
It does a lot of heavy lifting because of that brutal 2. A few people from the event will attest to this. Whenever after attacking with Russ, asking people for 14 invulnerable saves on their unit from the 7 wounds that I did to them, and they're all multi-wound models, and he's just going, "Oh no."
So just to add on top of that, it is +1 strength, so he is strength 8, but if he charges, he's strength 9.
Correct.
That's spicy.
And because he's a Primarch and not infantry, on the charge he's weapon skill 9 as well.
Yeah. So you got the axe, which is +2 strength, AP2, melee, sunder, reaping blow 1, and mastercrafted.
Yeah. It's still a good weapon. Now, in first edition, Russ used to be able to split his attacks between his axe and his sword.
Mm-hmm.
That's no longer a thing. You have to every model needs to choose a weapon to use, just to not confuse things, and it actually speeds the game up. I very rarely use the axe's profile. Now, again, I'm referencing back to over the course of this weekend, I attended a Heresy event, and my 1v1 opponent was playing with Mechanicum, and he charged his knight into Russ while he was standing in the middle of the board, and Russ just turned around and used the axe and chopped him in half in the single turn. It's decent, but only use it against armor. There's no reason to use it against people.
Don't bother using it against dreadnoughts because Sunder does nothing.
Yeah, you want against dreadnoughts especially. You want that brittle to be able to inflict more wounds on them.
And apparently he also has a gun, but Russ doesn't know he has a gun. But he does actually carry a gun.
Yeah, is gifted pistol from Mr. Ironhands.
It's actually from Vulcan.
Oh, it's Vulcan.
Yes, it was. Has been reworked by no less than the hands of Primarch Vulcan to form an outsized but perfectly balanced pistol suitable for the hand of the Wolf King. Though Russ and his legion have often misunderstood what it is and find it as a paperweight. It does actually say that right there in black and white. But no, yes, Vulcan does make it. It's a range 12 pistol, strength 4, AP 3. It's got assault 3, rending 6+. It's not. A lot of the Primarchs have these weird, funny, gimmicky guns, and to be honest, the vast majority of them never really use them.
Russ knows his pistol is a pistol.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you just pistol whip someone with it. It's not. Yeah, it's not.
He is an upskilled Grey Slayer. Bolt pistols are just there for show.
Yeah, he just throws it at somebody when he gets angry. But yeah, and then obviously he has his two brothers, Fergie and Guri.
No, I love these things. I think that they're great.
They are beautiful models.
They're cheap. They're beautiful models. If you're getting Russ, you wouldn't want to be without them. I don't think they're not necessary for every single game you ever play, but they're one of. I mean, it's 100 points. You could buy these, and they would be pretty good at tearing apart a tactical marine squad of the same amount of points. And the tactical marines would be hard pressed to beat them.
They've got an impressive selection of special rules: Fearless, Fear 1, Rampage 2, Hammer of Wrath 1, Feel No Pain 5+, and Bulky 4. That's
so. One thing to stipulate is that they do not have the Space Wolf role, so they don't gain any of them, any of the bonuses from them. So they are their own standalone unit. So that's why they get a bunch of special rules.
Yeah. So they're Wolfkin. So the Wolfkin of the Russ may be taken as a detachment if Lehman Russ is in the same detachment. So you can't take them without him. They are chosen as part of the detachment. They are treated as a HQ choice as far as any special rules, object, or mission is concerned, but do not take up a force organization slot. And the unit cannot be joined by any other models except Russ himself. They've got big teeth and claws that are strength 5, AP 4, melee, and then breaching 6+. Because apparently they can bite into tanks.
Definitely, they can take on some artificial armor, but not a tank unless you're chewing at the back.
Yeah, which you do in always strike the rear armor value, which is a rule that I do not like.
So that has changed, sir. That has changed. On the first round of combat, you hit the facing that you charge.
Yes. It's progress. It's progress.
It's after that, if it's not decided to drive away on you, it's rear armor.
Yeah, third edition maybe they'll eventually just say you hit whatever facing you get into contact with.
I think it's a really nice adaptation to the rule and exactly the sort of compromise that you should accept.
Well, I have to. So we're almost to the end of the wolves. There's not much left of them.
So we're moving on to elite. Well, sorry, there is two more HQs, but they're special characters and will come at the
Yeah.
end. So keep on flicking through the book. So the next page, we're talking about the Deathsworn pack.
Ooh.
Now, the Deathsworn, for the uninitiated, are destroyers of what other legions would designate as destroyers. That is the Deathsworn in the Space Wolves. They're
Walk-ons.
treated they are treated differently to their other destroyer brethren in comparison. But if you, I mean, I think the models are really, really beautiful in Forge World. I really like them. However, whenever I built mine, they didn't have models, so I just built mine up out of some Mark IV that I had lying around.
Yeah, their models are
And
beautiful.
yeah,
Their models really
like
are.
there's one questionable leaping pose, but the rest are solid.
I do like them.
They're
'Cause
great.
I remember getting the sort of released the fluff of what they were in the previews, building up to leading up to like the everything for book 7 coming out, and the way they were described is essentially 30k Wolfen, and that's what a lot of people thought they were gonna look like.
Yeah.
Because because they are changing, they are
Well,
descending into that. But then
I,
they
I remember I remember the discussions that were had before, whenever we were guessing what sort of units that the Space Wolves would be getting whenever their Legion launched. And Wolfen were definitely up there, and we didn't really expect Deathsworn originally.
no
And they do sort of emphasize, and I get what they're going for, instead of making it like that high fantasy thing where, suddenly werewolves, and and instead it's it's like showing the progenitor to them
yeah
is like the ones that are they're they're trying to keep it under control, but they're definitely losing it, and they're packed together, and they act very much like destroyers. They work very closely like with the Speakers of the Dead, painting their armor black, much the same. The cult of Morkai, so they're a death cult, and they worship the Death Wolf, and all the like aspects of, yeah. Would you believe?
yeah. But models wise, aesthetically, they do look like a a typical chaplain, space wolf priest in Mark III armor, which is not how a lot of people envisioned them to be. Obviously, because Games Workshop made such a thing about the Wolfen aspect of them in their lore, we honestly, a lot of people expected when before they come out to look Wolfen esque, but no, they're like if you wanted to if you didn't want to specifically use this unit for what it was and what they are, but you wanted a lot of kind of cool looking Speakers of the Dead in your army, these guys would be a perfect basis for that because they have that wolf priest aesthetic already.
And that ties in very much with the rules as well,
Yeah,
because so Cult of Morkai is what we've been talking about, is the death cult, and Deathsworn packs can't be joined by anybody except by Speakers of the Dead and Casters of Runes. No one else. But if you take a Speaker of the Dead or a Caster of Runes, you can make a squad of Deathsworn a retinue for them.
yeah. And then they've got the death, the dreams of the Death Wolf. So basically, is that not fight on death?
Yeah,
No,
so it's been
basically.
toned down from the original one to now just being if the model dies before it gets to attack, it gets to make a single attack before you remove it as a proper casualty.
Okay.
Right? So it's not bad.
What
And
is
that'll tie in with whenever we get to the war gear
what
and
is
why
their
it's not
what does their stasis bomb do?
bad. So their stasis bomb is an interesting one. I'm just gonna read from it. So any unit which successfully charges a unit with the stasis bombs must make a disordered charge. In addition, controlling player of a unit that includes any models with stasis bombs may choose to activate them when declaring a charge for that unit before dice are rolled to determine the distance. It remains activated until the start of the controlling player's next turn and may be activated again if another charge is later declared. While it's active, all models with stasis bombs must add both Fleshbane and Gets Hot to their attacks made in the fight phase. All wounds inflicted by Gets Hot resolve at the AP of the weapon.
And they get these as standard, so they're not. They all have one.
Yeah, yeah. So every model in the unit gets a stasis bomb.
Yeah.
Every model in the unit also gets a power axe, which
Mm.
is AP2.
Yeah. That's pretty nasty.
Yeah. So I was saying, and I've sort of put forward this destroyer motif. However, there is a few things that are different between destroyers and Deathsworn. Deathsworn have 2 wounds instead of a singular wound, compared to regular destroyers, and they're all equipped with artificer armor.
Hmm.
So they're all rocking a 2-up save in heavy artificer armor, so they're getting rerolls on that.
Yeah. I always forget about the heavy keyword.
Yeah, it's something nice and new. I actually it's nice whenever it comes up. But yeah, it can be really good. It can be really good. So you start off with 175 points per 5 Deathsworn. You can pay 30 points each for up to an additional 5. Any of them can take Power Fists. 1 in 5 can take Great Frost Blades or a Thunder Hammer. And you can take either Melta Bombs or Rad Grenades for 20 points. So, looking at that favorable number 6 again, Rick, with Rad Grenades, you're instant deathing thing.
Yeah. That's pretty brutal.
Now, something that an awful lot of others sort of skip over with the Deathsworn is, yes, they're an elite unit with weapon skill 4, so they're not weapon skill 5 veterans, which are just destroyers. But because of them being heavy, means that on the charge they're getting up to that weapon skill 5.
Yeah.
I think that they're an interesting unit. I kind of want to try out taking a caster of runes with them, and just trying to walk them across the table with that 3-up shroud.
Can they take a mortar?
No, only caster of runes and speakers of the dead.
Okay. Yeah, they are pretty interesting. Definitely
They have a good
yeah.
shout. They have a good shout at taking down dreadnoughts as well.
Yeah. All my favorites next.
But yeah, that's the Deathsworn. I think that they're beautiful. It's really cool to have just a bunch of crazy black armored power axe wielding maniacs. Go nuts, people! Conversions or the Forge World models, they're both fantastic opportunity. They can take a Land Raider as a dedicated transport as well, so you could always get rid of that heavy problem by driving them up in a vehicle and just jumping them out at people.
Or just get a nice big unit, put them in a Spartan.
I mean, you can only ever have 10 of them. And, yeah. It's a bit of a waste of a Spartan.
Oh, because you're going to have 3.
What? No. Right. On to your favourite unit.
Oh, these had so much promise. Rules-wise, they're really, really good. Artwork-wise, they're really, really good. Model-wise, they suck donkey. Oh, yeah. So
I don't know how much of it is a problem with the paint job that they decided to go with,
no,
or if it's the model.
no. The thing is, and I remember this vividly, they released the Varangar, the models, and everyone was like, "What the fuck is that? What is that? What is going on with that? What is that weird fur? Why does it look like bananas?" And the backlash was pretty bad. And then they released the Praetor model that is absolutely horrid. Like it is so bad. And the backlash for it was so bad that Forge World took it down. And everyone instantly thought that they were going to redo it. And I think at the time the communication from Forge World was that they were going to redo them. But then about 4 or 5 months later, they mysteriously turned back up on the website without any word from Forge World or Games Workshop. And they're still there to today. And they're still regarded as some of the worst models that Forge World have done. They suck so badly.
I have never even considered purchasing them just to have fancy looking Terminators, because I don't like them.
Yeah, we got the art plates for in the book. So like normally when you buy the big black books, and even in the actual Loyalist book, when you get to there is a picture of one of them in here. You get to the heraldry section and it sort of breaks down what the helmets and the shoulder pads, and you get 3 Marines, full head to toe Marines, and they have one of the Varangier right there in the middle, and his artwork in the cataphracti armor, they look amazing.
If you're reading along in the book, if you skip 4 pages forward, there's armor pictures which we got before we got the Varangier models, which were exactly what we were asking for and did not.
Now, bearing in mind, if with the Space Wolf decal sheet and the Cataphracti Terminators, you can make the Terminators look like that.
I did my Varangier from Cataphracti Terminators and parts from the Space Wolf Terminator kit.
Yeah, for the wolf pelts and stuff, you can do that. But that's what we wanted. That's, we'd been spoiled up until this point with things like the other Terminator units that had come out. And then we got these. But rules-wise, they're an elite Terminator unit with weapon skill 5 at 250 points for five of them.
They are pricey.
They are pricey, but they're also they're solid for what they do. They have Fear 1. They've got Relentless because they're Terminators. They've got Counterattack 1. They're Stubborn, which is really, really good. They've got Hammer of Wrath 2, which is pretty solid. Lord's Bane, which is a special rule for them, and then Bulky 2 because they're Terminators. They can obviously take a transport, so they've got your variety of Land Raiders. They do get a Spartan if you want to put them in there. And then this
would be one that I would argue this is a unit for a Spartan.
Yes.
Whenever you take them, you want that protection.
Yeah, they definitely are your premium Cataphracti elite Terminator unit, which all legions seem to have a variation of.
They are.
Apart
They
from
are. They are great,
they are good.
but they are not the best.
No, they're not just staring or fire drakes.
They do a different role, and I mean, I run my Vargear in a very specific way. I kit them out all with. So I have a unit of 10 of them, which can obviously be split and put into sort of whatever you want. But that consists of 10 guys with power fists and frost claws, and the other 4 have chain fists and frost claws. I use them only to butcher people in close combat. They do not have guns because they do not need guns.
No.
Because whenever you charge, your weapon skill 6, because Space Wolves.
Yeah. But they've got your standard Terminator loadout and options: power fists, chain fists, thunder hammers, combi weapons, combi bolters. But then obviously things like their power swords and power axes and the power claws, they've obviously been switched out for their Frost Space Wolf variant. It can still take a heavy flamer and a Reaper autocannon.
That's
and
every single model can.
Yes, which pretty much they can. And then they've got obviously the rule Lord's Bane, which models with a special rule may issue and accept challenges. So you're essentially got a unit of 5 guys that can take challenges, rather than just the one.
This rule is pretty much chosen warriors plus a little bit extra.
Yeah.
So the little bit extra is where this all comes down to, and it's whenever the challenger kills, whenever you kill the opponent in the challenge, you get +1 to the for the purposes of resolving combat. So it's an extra +1 to whatever you're already doing to people.
Yeah.
Plus your Vexilla and whatever else you got in there.
I mean, these guys will kill most standard unit leaders without much problems.
They can go toe to toe with the best of them.
Yeah.
I just don't think that they are the tippy top best.
No, there's. I think the Night Lords have a similar sort of thing with their Canoptek Terminators, with them all essentially being characters but not characters.
Yeah, most legions have access to some sort of chosen warrior. Your command squads, and I think your veterans do it as well.
Yeah, they're if you like Terminators and if you like Cataphracti, they're definitely something that you'll want to bring. You may not necessarily want to buy the official models. If you like them, I salute you. There are. It could well be the paint job. The problem is that there's not. They do have a picture of them without paint, and for me the fur.
I mean, I'm looking at the painted miniatures in the book.
Yeah,
it doesn't do great things.
No, because it's the fur.
Look at the Varagear beside Varl Redblade. Varl Redblade, his fur looks good.
Yes, yes. They obviously. You see, now I know when they 3D sculpt, they do this. They do the banana skin, the bananas, and then they go into it and refine it and break it down, so it looks like the Bloodblades fur, or the Space Wolf pelts that you'll find on the plastic kits. The problem, and the reason why they do that is because the bananas are overlaying each other, and then you get that layer of fur on top of fur. It almost feels as though that when they were sculpting these, they didn't do the refining of the fur, and that stage was missed on both of these and the Praetor model.
Yeah, because if you look through the entire range, so I mean, the pelts on Russ look really, really good.
Yeah.
Same for Frecky and Gary. They look fantastic.
Even on
The
even on the Death Sworn, there's a bit of fur here and there, and
Yeah,
it's
which
really
is
well nicely
really,
done.
really nicely modeled. Varl, he has the same sort of stuff, and then you get to the Praetor and the Varagir official models, and I like the shoulder pads. I like the axes. I like the bolters that are belt fed instead of having a clip. But that's all I can say about it. The
Yeah.
fur brings it all down.
Yeah.
It's such a disappointment.
It
But
really is.
anyway, something that isn't a disappointment: Grey Slayers and Stalkers.
So you can take tactical squads, or do these replace your tactical squads?
So you can still take tactical squads.
Right. Okay,
You
that's neat.
won't, you won't, but you can.
Okay.
Just because your composition is that of shock assault. That is what you're mainly going to do. Grey Slayers and Stalkers, in my opinion, are one of the best tactical units you can take in a Space Marine army for Heresy.
Yeah.
Just because of their versatility.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm saying Grey Slayers and Grey Stalkers. They are two independent units. Before they were just Grey Slayers.
Right.
And the difference between them is that Grey Slayers are both squads are standard Marine stat line. They are 145 points each, so they're 45 points more expensive than your standard TAC squad. They all come with bolt pistols, Fenrisian axes, combat shields, your grenades, and power armor. They get Heart of the Legion, counterattack 1, are relentless, and they all have skirmish.
Yeah.
And they're line. So these are the bread and butter of a Space Wolf force, in my opinion. If you have 10, you can take them in a Rhino, or a Land Raider. But typically, so you're not going to do that, really, unless you're taking like small stalker squads with bolters and stuff.
Yeah.
I like a horde of Marines, and yeah, I like to take not full units, but I like to take large squads of guys. So the difference between the Grey Slayers and Grey Stalkers is, so the Grey Stalkers, instead of having the Fenrisian axe and the combat shield, they get a chainsword.
Okay.
Okay, so it's very difficult to properly put into words. But a comparison is that they can each take up to an additional 10 guys. They can all take bolters. They can all take the stalkers can buy combat shields and axes if you wanted to. They all gain access to every model can swap out their weapon for a power weapon. Every 5, you can take a Power Fist or a Lightning Claw. You can take the normal things like a Legion Vexilla. And your Huskarl, which is your Sergeant for normal squads, can take Power Fist, Lightning Claw, a Frost Blade, or a Thunderhammer.
Yeah.
And the Artificer armor and stuff like that.
Okay.
The difference is that Stalkers get an additional section of what they can buy. They have an option of, for every 5 models in the unit, they can take a Magna combi, any combi weapon, a Flamer, a Volkite Charger, a Rotor Cannon, Volkite Caliver, Plasma Gun, or a Melta-Gun. So for every 5 guys, you can swap it out to that classic Grey Hunter Pack sort of style from 40k.
Okay.
I really like these guys. A unit of 10 swapping 2 bolters out for swapping 2 guys out to have rotor cannons to give pinning in a tactical unit. Amazing. They're also relentless, so if you decide to make a Grey Stalker bolter squad, you can move and shoot heavy weapons that you have access to in this with little repercussion, because the Volkite gun is heavy.
Right.
So yeah, they're really good units. I would typically take a unit of 15, give the Huskarl his artificier armor and a weapon of choice. Take a Vexilla and load up the squad with 5 power weapons.
Okay.
And I launch them across the table at people with an apothecary in tow.
Yeah, I think I've seen your units. The ones with the shields and axes, aren't they?
Yeah, those are the Grey Slayers.
Right. Nice. And then we're on to the final two entries.
Last entries from the book, but we're not quite done yet.
Why?
Because there are a few expanded units which we skipped over.
From the legacy thing?
From Legacy, Cathonia, and the Exemplary Battles.
Well,
it's okay. Legacy took all of 5 seconds.
Yeah, we'll go into the Cathonia one. Legacy, we can touch on at a later date. It's just that unless people are dipping into it, it's not really. Most people are going to stick to what's current.
Yeah, fair.
But we have 2 very cool characters. We have one of my favourites, Gregor Fellhanded, not to be confused with Bjorn the Fellhanded. Games Workshop. He is 135 points. He has a really cool model, which I do think you can now buy again, because he kind of disappeared for a long time. He is only like a champion, like sort of.
Yeah, he's got a Centurion
level.
He's Centurion stuff line.
Yeah, but he is pretty cool. He's got some pretty cool armor. He has Artifice armor, so he's got a 2-up save. He's got a refractor field, so he has a 5-up invulnerable, I believe.
Yep.
And he has his crack and frag grenades, because every Marine would have that. And then he has his lovely fell hand, again, not to be confused with the proper fell-handed. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's an independent character, relentless, counterattack 1, master of the Legion, which is very important if you want to run him as your warlord. And he is a warlord, and he has the Crownbreaker warlord trait. I like him, and I like his model.
So yeah, I mean, he's a great little model. I still haven't used him in 2nd edition yet.
I still run him all the time.
So he's an interesting little model because I have questioned this, and you can make a generic Delegatus with Space Wolf flavoring, the same amount of points for him, and better. But that's not the point of why you take Gregor, right?
No.
You take him because he's cool.
Yes.
And otherwise, I mean, he gets Skirmish. He's Master of the Legion for the points of a Centurion with some gear on him. In 1st edition, he had a 3-up save, so I'm glad they gave him a 2-up save.
Yeah.
It sucked whenever you had a Warlord with a 3-up save that couldn't be modified. It was such a bad decision.
But
the fell hand is, I think, it's a nice weapon, but I mean, you're gonna want to just go out and try and assassinate other Centurion level guys with him. You're not gonna want to like try and snipe out really good leaders.
Oh no, Sigmund will turn this guy into mush within seconds. Um, and a lot of the top end Praetor characters will do the same.
Yeah. He's not that level.
No.
He's the level beneath. He's the one who goes and tries to hunt down your Centurions.
I would always imagine that Gregor Fellhanded would work really well for Zone Mortalis games because it kind of fits the kind of scenarios he's good at because there's a lot
Yeah.
of infantry, and he's relatively cheap compared to other named characters.
Oh yeah, one of the cheapest Master of the Legions you gained access to from special characters.
So his crown breaker warlord trait is Gregor
Exactly.
Fellhanded, and all models in the unit he has joined gain preferred enemy independent characters. They also gain Feel No Pain 5+, which is again really good when locked in combat with one or more enemy models with the independent character special rule. In addition, they can make a reaction during an additional action route during the movement phase, which is obviously really, really handy for your Legion reaction.
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier on, so it's interesting, and some people I think get this point is that Gregor Fellhand's warlord trait, although is named the same as the generic one,
Hmm.
is superior on him because he gets his reaction in the movement phase instead of the assault phase,
Yeah.
which is a really good reason to take him, as we've discussed.
Hmm. And then we have Havel Redblade. I like this guy a lot because
I
he
love him.
has a heavy bolter
Yeah,
and an axe
yeah,
and in Terminator armor.
yeah, yeah. All the above is ticking boxes.
It's just,
To be honest.
I think he's the only Terminator I've ever seen carry a heavy bolter.
Yeah, definitely a more unique one.
Um, he comes in at a smashing 210 points, but he is the Jarl of the Fourth Company.
Or the
Um,
seventh, depending on the Lord.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, they haven't even confirmed who is exactly the Wolf Lord of the 13th Company because that keeps changing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but you know what? That unknown will always be there, right?
yeah, but he's pretty good. He's got Battle Cunning, Master of the Legion, Relentless, Inexorable, Counterattack 1, Fear, Space. A lot of Night Lords love that. Bulky 2, and then he has the Head Taker. Now, I will point out that the only time that I've ever been able to beat Sevatar in combat was when using Havel Redblade. Um, yes, that was the only time I was ever able to do it.
So
I like him. He's good. He's solid.
yeah, he's really good. I mean he's the only Tartarus character, I believe.
Hmm.
Oh no, one of the White Scars guy. He's in Tartarus as well.
The Kurgan guy.
Yeah, Quinza, I think it's
Yeah,
called.
he's in
Yeah, yeah,
the Samurai Tartarus armor.
yeah, which is really cool if you're going for that. So yeah, he's really cool. I do want to speak about him a little bit.
Go for
He
it.
is he is honestly so good because of the things that he brings to the army.
He does bring a
Um,
lot.
his warlord trait is fantastic. Um, because preferred enemy, as we've already discussed in this video, is really good.
Hmm.
And Varl just gives preferred enemy infantry to him and his unit, and that is really strong. A lot stronger than independent characters.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to hit out with a lot of different targets with preferred enemy infantry. It covers an awful lot more bases. But That is a sideshow to what he really does, which is battle cunning. Pretty much, 3 infantry units in your army can be given scout for free. I love this. I use Varl Redblade in a Pride of the Legion army with nothing but Terminators, and I select 3 Terminator units and I scout them forward at the start of the game.
Filth.
It's great.
Pure filth. And then he obviously has his axe. +2 strength, AP2, melee, and armor bane while he's in it, melee. So
He's strength 6 with armor bane. It's not gonna shout home. It's like you're not gonna be able to take on the likes of. I mean, if you're hoping for that armor bane to roll you a double 6 to like properly crush people, because you need at least what. You need a 9 on 2d6 to be able to beat a Land Raider.
yeah.
It's good. I mean, it utterly crushes small tanks.
Armor bane works on dreadnoughts as well, doesn't it? Or it doesn't?
It does, but I don't think you want to throw this guy against a dreadnought, because the dreadnought will likely win.
Ooh, let's find out one day.
Yeah, we will.
I like him. I think he's solid. He's a nice. There is other named characters that I wish they'd give rules for, beyond Fell-handed, Bulvi, and the others. But yeah, it's also interesting as well that the Space Wolves are the only legion, I believe, that have characters. That doesn't have the named character for the first company.
No, they don't. But I mean, certainly I don't know from the books. I mean, who were the main characters of Space Wolf stories?
They're mentioned in the Wolf King.
Who were the ones that really stood out?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but they are. He does list a lot. They are listed in Wolf King.
Yeah.
With the novel about them. But yeah, it's at least you have characters.
Yeah. I think Space Wolves are in a really good place. Really, really good place. They are not unbeatable. They are not so strong that you just can't beat them because of their traits.
Yeah.
You just need to you need to realize that Space Wolves have problems that they're trying to overcome. It's like I always have a problem because I do not have ranged combat, because I heavily lean into murdering people's faces.
Yeah.
And I understand my problems in list composition and things like that because of that. And never try and address them and just sort of go, well, if I've got a problem and this unit's not going to make it, maybe I just need more units and just put more bodies in it.
Yeah.
instead of taking more gun. But yeah, there's some nice things that you can pair it up with so that you can have an awful lot of vehicle support and different things. Jetbikes I find are working out really well with them. Really, really good. Because if you charge them in, they're going to be weapon skill 5, which means that they're harder to hit back, and then you've got 2 wins each on them, and you've got hit and run on them natively. They can be pretty cool.
Yeah. But I am a big fan of the wolves. I do like them. I probably won't go back to playing them. But yeah. But you have one unit to talk about.
One more unit to talk about. Yes. So, the most terrible unit, I think, in all of 30k is the Fenrisian wolf pack.
Oh no.
So this thing is in the legacy document, and a Fenrisian wolf pack, 10 points. It's a movement 7, weapon skill 3, strength 3, toughness 3, wolf, with initiative 3 and 1 attack. You can have up to 4 additional, and they can only be a retinue.
I don't understand why they're in the legacy.
Um,
I understand that they're a whole. They've come over from 40k. Space Wolves can bring units of them. Obviously, Space Wolf Legion likes wolves, but just stick them in the book alongside the Space Wolf Legion.
They're a joke and shouldn't be there, in my opinion.
No, they're fluffy.
Ugh. I mean, would you be taking 5 wolves for... What is that? So 35 points? 35 points for 5 wolves, 5 wounds at toughness 3, which is going to make you take a leadership check?
No, but when you look at the aesthetics of the army, they could be brought and then allow the Wolfkin to lead them and join them, which is perfectly.
But they have to have a guy with them.
Yeah, but that again, they could have easily changed that for second edition. The fact that is also another thing that the Space Wolf Legion doesn't have, and it should, is a war gear option to bring a Fenrisian wolf.
Yeah, I think that was the intention for this, to make your hero have like a buddy or two.
No, but even in the old days of Space Wolves, like you could pay like 10 points and have 2 Fenrisian wolves to come alongside your Wolf Lord. So why is the Jarls not having that as an option? It's cool. It's aesthetic. They did do it. They do it. It's in a lot of the books. So
yeah.
So just allow them to do it in 30k.
Yeah.
It's not the silliness of the wolves with Space Wolves riding wolves, and stuff like that. But it's going back to the true sort of original origins of, here's a Wolf Lord a la Praetor, and for 10 points you can have 2 Fenrisian wolves that are basically his war gear, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool. It's definitely a callback to earlier editions, and it works in regards to 7th edition anyway. So I think that's one missed opportunity. Or just put Fenrisian wolf packs into the book and give them a back. I know you don't like it, but
I was quite disappointed in what they did with them. I would have expected a fast attack choice like they've always been, and you're just able to take a massive pack of wolves.
Yeah, like all they
what they did, they suddenly made them strength and toughness imperial militia for no reason.
Well, a good start line for them would be movement 10, strength and toughness 3, 1 wound, give them a 5-up save, but give them furious charge and rend.
I would have just been happier with strength and toughness 4. You can take up to 15 of them. Go nuts.
Well, pack alpha. Make the pack alpha strength and toughness 4.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Anyway, that is the there's a exemplary battle unit, but it's just a weird support unit. We'll talk about it later on.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to leave the Inducti to when we talk about the Inducti?
I would actually really like to talk about Inducti if we have the time.
Well, we are on 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Well, if it doesn't make the cut, it doesn't. So, Inducti are really interesting. Now, we'll do a proper deep dive into it whenever we're talking about the Siege of Cathonia.
Yeah.
But in reality, inducti squads gain. They lose a whole load of perks, but they gain a few different options for what you do with them.
Okay.
So, Space Wolf inducti are based off of a despoiler squad. So you take a despoiler squad unit, which is generic. You make them inducti, and you follow a set inducti template sheet for what sort of inducti you can build, depending on your legion.
Right.
So, a Space Wolf inducti gets they lose the sergeant of the squad, so they don't have a character in their unit at all. You replace him with just another regular guy. They can replace their bolt pistols for combat shields for free. They can pay a single point to take chain axes instead of their chain swords. And they replace Heart of the Legion with Headstrong Charge. So, to run through it all, combat shields, I think, are a mistake on this unit.
Right.
Because you're giving up your extra attack from your bolt pistol. So you're only going to have one attack on each guy if you're charged.
Right. Okay.
Right? So I would just give... well, I am currently in the process of building an entire squad just with chain axes.
I see.
15 man strong with a Vexilla, and that's all they're getting.
Okay.
So for giving up Heart of the Legion and getting Headstrong Charge allows them to, if they choose to, can make their charge disordered, but get +2 on their charge roll up to the maximum of 12.
Wow.
Which is really good. Super, super fast. Because these guys, you're just going to use them like a 40k Space Wolf player would use a Blood Claw squad.
Yeah.
And just run them up the board as fast as humanly possible and green your units. I think that they're great because they keep Spite of the Legion, so they actually get +1 attack if they're fighting anything that's pinned, falling back, or doesn't have a character in them. So you can sort of mitigate that. You can mitigate the attack loss from the disordered if you play your cards right and use Spite of the Legion in smart ways. But I like them. They're cheap. They're throwaway. They're a good modeling opportunity.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to doing a big deep dive into the Cothonia book. But yeah.
I think that's pretty much everything.
That is.
Certainly the units. There's a lot of interesting takes I take with my army, and thankfully I've always been in a position where I've been able to change my list each and every time that I take to the table.
Yeah.
Which has opened my eyes to an awful lot of units, which people might not have yet. So yeah, plenty of insight, I think.
They are an interesting mix, but we are coming to the end. On a channel note, thank you to everybody who has listened to episode 1. It has gone down surprisingly well, and we have had a lot of downloads for it as well. And obviously, there's a lot of time has been listened to in that. So I'm loving it right now because I like all the analytics in the background. It's quite nice to see. So thank you for that, and obviously the new subscribers to the channel that's come off the back of episode 1. Thank you. There is more podcasts coming. I think we're going to be dropping it down to a weekly format rather than a fortnightly one. So they'll be coming thick and fast. We have a lot to cover for at least this season.
Got another 17 legions to cover.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things as well. But it's all good. So thank you again. So if you are a new listener, smash the subscribe button and ring the bell. Commenting and sharing and all of that stuff, it all helps massively with the algorithm, and YouTube love it when you interact with it. So please do, and we will definitely be bringing you more. So what's your final words, Kyle?
Just keep playing, everybody. Enjoy the weather, and yeah, hopefully get to play people soon and see what other crazy solutions are going to come up with problems.
And we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you, everybody.
Goodbye.